We've got something called the magic mirror, and it's meant to be, as we say, a window on your soul. We ask a few pointed and probing questions, 15 in total, and meant to be spontaneous and fun. So, are you ready to bare your soul?
Fire away.
Okay,
Fire
fantastic.
away.
So, first question: favorite aircraft, civilian or military, current or historical?
Blackbird SR-71, 3.5 Mach. There's no competition there.
Absolutely, yeah, and it was revolutionary for its time, and it still is. We need to get another supersonic passenger airplane in service. I never got to fly the Concorde.
No, me neither.
Yeah, and I've never seen the Concorde ski. You know the Concorde ski, right? Not too many people know that airplane,
Yes.
but it's one of those things where you see it at a distance and you're thinking, oh, is that a Concorde? And then you look a little bit closer and you go, no, this thing's got an Adam's apple and a bunch of other weird stuff on it, right? It's I don't think it ever flew, but interesting story on that airplane as well. So something a little more domestic now. Preference, apples or oranges?
Oranges.
Okay. And of course, you're Italian. Coffee or tea?
Well, strangely enough, tea.
Really? Wow. I would
Yeah.
have just assumed coffee. Okay. Flat or sparkling?
Or there has to be not sparkling, super sparkling. Badois,
Okay. Okay.
Perrier,
Okay.
San Pellegrino, not the little fizzy, really sparkling.
Okay. Well, after the tea reclaimed your Italian citizenship, that's good. Preference, cats or dogs?
I've had both. Now I have a Labrador, so dog, let's say.
Okay. Okay. Scariest animal?
For me, because I lived in the countryside where the animals were, lice. I got attacked, from those that come from the sheep, got a lot of poisoning, lice. It's the scariest thing. I know that it's not that big of a thing, but
Well, sometimes the smallest are the most fierce too, right? So certainly the most tenacious. Favorite classic car?
oh, I know for sure. Ferrari 365 GTS Daytona convertible. The Miami Vice one, which actually unfortunately wasn't really the real Daytona, but it was a Corvette mock-up. But
Well, when I come to visit you again, you can take me for a ride. I'm sure you've got one in your garage, right?
I wish.
So here's an interesting one for you. Being a fan of history and a student of it, famous person, living or dead, you'd like to have dinner with?
I would say Leonardo da Vinci over Napoleon Bonaparte, but the fight is up. But you have to pick one, Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay, well, you get the privilege of two, but yeah, Da Vinci would be an interesting one for sure, and Napoleon likewise. But Da Vinci had an amazing life, and they're still trying to figure out his brilliance. So there you go, right?
Exactly.
Okay, how about your greatest fear?
This is tough because and it gets personal, but my greatest fear is not to age gracefully, let's say. I would prefer to go out young and still healthy, so to speak.
Yeah, we all have that James Dean fallacy, right? So, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting. We're both of the same vintage as well, and as you get older, you realize that I think we age more gracefully than our parents because I think they lived harder, both work-wise, but I know my parents. Life-wise, but my parents, smokers. When you had a party or a gathering at the family house on a Friday, there was a little bit of alcohol involved, and I think
Yes.
I think they lived a little harder than we do, and we're a little bit more conscious. So I'm hoping we're all aging a little bit more gracefully
Exactly.
as we go. So,
Exactly.
well, we'll move from something a little more profound to something a little more frivolous. Favorite dessert?
I'm not a big fan of dessert, but the one that I can pick over anything else is the Apfelstrudel.
Okay, well, hey, I'm of German stock, and I grew up on that stuff. So yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And there's three places in the world that make it very good. One is Cortina d'Ampezzo, the pearl of the Alps, we call it, and there's going to be now the Olympics in
That's right.
in few weeks. And if anybody is going to be in Cortina, please try. There's a place that does only that basically, and is the best apfel strudel this side of the Alp. I'm sure that north of the Alp there's better ones, but this side of the Alp is the
Think
best
of
one.
all the when you think of all the Italian sweets, it's interesting you go German, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not very big on sweets, but that one I love it. This one I
Okay.
love it.
Okay, fantastic. Earliest memory.
Well, I like to say one. Maybe it's not the earliest, but it's very early. And my grandmother took me to the airport and eventually became the manager for in Perugia. And I went to see the Frecce Tricolori, which is our national acrobatic team. And at that
Yeah.
time,
Okay.
we're still flying the Fiat G91.
You got an early start. I only came into aviation in my second year of university, so I was a little bit slower to the game than you.
I always had the passion. I wanted to be
Yeah.
an astronaut more than a pilot, but it's a little more complicated to become one.
And reality and life kicks in, right? So that's for sure. So here's another one for you. Most used app on your phone, excluding WhatsApp and Outlook.
Well, you'll be surprised, but on my phone, there's no Outlook, and I'm resisting to install it. And the actual most used app on the phone is the phone app, if we can call it that. I'm still using the
Okay.
phone as a phone.
Okay. Well,
I like
you're old you're old
talk to
school.
people.
That's good. That's good.
I like to
No,
talk
that's
to
great.
people. I don't have Instagram. I don't have TikTok. I don't have Facebook. If I have to text somebody, I call the person. I prefer it.
And it's funny because there's been this sort of etiquette that's developed over the last 5 or 10 years that you have to text somebody before you call them, right? And then every once in a while you get a call from somebody direct, and you're like, what the hell? It must be an emergency, right? Like, who's going to call me without texting me first? So it's interesting. The modern era has a few new rules it didn't have a decade ago. That's for sure.
No, and I'm sure it happens for you the same, but I still remember phone numbers of some of my high school mates, that you were
Wow.
dialing with the dial phone,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
still
absolutely.
remember those names by heart.
As a kid, I was a collector of antiques and all kinds of things, right? And somehow in my little hometown in Saskatchewan, in the middle of the Canadian prairies, there's this town called Vibank. It's 30 minutes outside of the capital city of Regina. And there was this hotel, little local hotel that had been run by this family for years and years. And I have an ashtray that my parents had. Of course, everybody had ashtrays back then, right? But it's the Maple Leaf Hotel. The proprietors are Joe and Alice Zaba, and their phone number is 22. 22, right? So it must have been one of those old exchange ones, and you're
Yeah,
going,
yeah,
wow,
yeah,
like I
yeah.
have
With the
no idea of
switchboard.
how to date it. How do you date this thing? But yeah, when you get a two-digit phone number, you know that you're at the early stages of the technology. That's for sure. So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting.
Absolutely.
So okay. Now, this is an interesting one. Again, asking in Italian, this could be a tricky one. Favorite movie of all time?
For this one, I have no doubts because it's Blade Runner, the original one from 83, 82, 83, from Ridley Scott.
That movie is one that my wife and I watched early on when we got together over 30 years ago. And about every 3 or 4 years, we rerun it. And it's really well done, right?
But I actually read the book before I watched the movie because it's Philip Dick, and the original title was "Do Android Dream of Electric Ship?" Yeah, I have an
Yeah.
account that I use for participating in, like say, forum thing, and I'm Rick Deckard, still to this
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a classic, and when you watch it again and again, you start to see more and more layers in it as well. So yeah, at least every 3 or 4 years we do it again. Maybe this will be a good Christmas activity for
with
my
a
wife and
with
I.
a killer soundtrack too, with a killer soundtrack as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now here's a more difficult one. You get one song to listen to for the rest of your life. What is it?
This is a tough one. I would take Message in a Bottle, but the Police, but it's a little dark, let's say, and so maybe
A lot of those Police and Sting songs are dark when you start layering them back. They
yeah,
sound cheerful, and you're like, my God.
Yeah. Or let's say if I want to enlighten myself, you see The Crime by Sade. I'm still a guy from the 80s, so that's what I go for.
That's a good one. Now, here's the impossible question, and what I will say is I'll help you with a little hint. There's some relevance in the conversation we've had, but I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. What's the number?
My number is 99.
You're absolutely
Okay.
wrong. Strangely enough, and you've watched the same talk show that I'm talking about that we've kind of borrowed this idea from. Nobody ever gets it right. But last time with Elizabeth Brown from Victoria, she got it
Yeah.
right. It was
Oh, wow.
incredible. It's almost psychic. But the number was 12 for 12 million passengers. There you go.
Very good.
So okay. But you won't get a failing grade. That's an impossible question. So now we're getting to the tail end. Favorite place you visited and the top bucket list destination you'd like to see.
I was fortunate enough to go around the world also for work, but I think that the favorite place I've been, considering that all that is going on, is still the favorite place is Jerusalem.
I spent 3 years in Jordan, but I never got across the bridge into Israel or Jerusalem, but that's on the list as well.
Well, two places I don't know if I can go. Well, one for sure I cannot go for now because, and as you know, you said that I'm a history buff or I like history, and there are two places I would like to go. One is Persepolis in Iran, now Persia before.
Yes.
And there's Leptis Magna in Libya, which is one of the best preserved Roman city, not in Italy, but you cannot get there, of course, for clear reason. So those are two that I would like to visit. Then I was in Botswana, but didn't manage to go to the Okavango Delta, which is a place that I would like to visit. And I was in Lisbon, but I would like to go see Porto instead.
Absolutely. And Iran is on my list as well. And if you get a chance, there's a series with Joanna Lumley, and she's an old British actress with a bit of character, and she does the Silk Road. She starts, I think, in Austria and goes all the way through to the Chinese border. She gets stopped at the Chinese border, but she travels all the way through the region and also through Iran. And it's fascinating. It's one of those places that whole Silk Road, like all those countries along there, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Georgia, all of those are, and places like Georgia, people don't realize that's where winemaking started.
I don't know. I think it's called the Golden Fleece. That's the Argonauts were trying to steal, from somewhere in there. Yeah. But the metaphor wasn't that it was actually a fleece of a sheep. It was actually the grapes. It was the wine that they were going to steal.
Exactly. Yeah, made you warm and fuzzy for sure. Okay, final word. What's your mantra in 10 words or less? Your personal mantra.
It's something that I adopted fairly recently. It was told to me by actually an airport executive, used to be the director general of Milan Airport. And Giulio told me once, l'ottimo è nemico del bene. That means that when you try to get to perfection, you forget the good is good enough. Those
are words to live by, and you're talking to a recovering perfectionist, and you can sometimes be paralyzed by perfection, right?
Exactly.
I think some people just get too hung up on absolutely getting everything down, buttoned up exactly the way they want it, and then the moment passes you by, right? And
in our industry, in our world, it applies very well because we're trying to do every airport would like to be the next Singapore, but sometimes you need to stick to the basic, do them as best as you can, not trying to always do the last mile when it's not needed, because to get to the last mile, everything goes by.
It's the law of diminishing returns, right? Well, again, that's a great place to wrap up, and it's been an absolute pleasure spending some time with you, Piervittorio, and I hope to see you again soon on the conference trail or elsewhere.